We are live. What is up, swimmers and swammers? Welcome back to the 2025 World Championships preview. I'm your host, Coleman Hodges, joined by the swim scribe himself, David Clossy, and the dirty double, Brendan Burns. Thanks for being here, guys. If you missed out, we did the women's preview for the 2025 Singapore World Championships on Tuesday. You can go back, watch that on SwimSwam, on YouTube, on Podbean, wherever you consume your media, it's there. Today, we are previewing the men's half of World Championships. It's looking to be a good preview. I guess first off, let's get the big news out of the way. For anyone who has already locked in their pick'ems, I think you can go back and change them. But obviously, right after we finished our women's preview, I believe that's around when the news broke, that Team USA, at least half of them, got hit with food poisoning. I think it even delayed some of their travel plans from Thailand to Singapore. So some of the Team USA athletes still might be in Phuket, Thailand, where they have their training camp. We're updating you as we know it and as we've heard. We also heard that the Team Great Britain might be suffering from similar infections or disease, but not what you want, obviously, heading into a World Championships, not what we like reporting or hearing. I will kick it to you guys just to say any thoughts or reactions to this news, especially just less than a week out of starting World Championships.
I mean, obviously, not the best news that you want to hear before a Worlds. In terms of how I'm going to be kind of factoring that into our previews today and stuff like that, I'm going to be going through as if everyone is fine, because it might, if it's only half that are infected, we don't know which half. Obviously, that information isn't going to be released because that's personal medical information about how they're feeling. And then also, whether or not, I feel like a lot of athletes, with the timing of it, if it is food poisoning, that normally moves through relatively quickly. So it's less of a question of how sick are they going to be during the meet. It's more of, is this last minute, disruption in your training and your preparation going to throw you? And if there is any widespread impact on Team USA and Team GB, I would imagine it'd be felt a lot more during the first couple of days. And so we might see those teams build kind of throughout the meet. Otherwise, managing illness during a meet is something that happens every year, really. Not normally on this scale, but even in Paris, there was COVID just going around that village and stuff like that. It felt like every other day there was this podium swimmer had COVID, then this podium swimmer had COVID, from all over the place. And so these teams of coaches and staff are well versed in how to deal with these kinds of things. And so I'm just going to be looking at it as if, assuming everyone is going to be fine, and that helps prevent us from needing to say, but they could be slower because of food poisoning, a million times during this preview.
Yeah. Brendan, any initial reactions?
Yeah, hope everyone's okay, obviously. It seems like from what USA Swimming is posting on social media, which is pretty much our best glimpse into the team functions at this point, seems like most of the team made it to Singapore okay. Maybe they'll adhere to the Ryan Lochte Beijing Olympics diet of strictly McDonald's, something familiar. Just kidding, don't do that. But I don't know. I think they'll be okay. Hope that, as David said, it's probably just a temporary blip in the preparation for the racing for World Championships, and not actually impacting the meet itself. So hopefully everybody's okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of speculation about if this is really actually food poisoning or if it's neurovirus. We obviously have no way of knowing. If it is food poisoning, hopefully it's already out of their system. They can move forward. Even if it's neurovirus, I was talking to SwimSwam co-founder Gold Medal Mel about this yesterday. And honestly, when you're tapering, the best thing you can do is lay in bed and hydrate and pump yourself full of fluids. That's what you do when you get sick. And so this might end up being a net positive. We really have no way of knowing how severe it is. Obviously, we don't know which athletes have been impacted and how much, but if athletes are, the hay's in the barn at this point, as they say, right? And so I'm not too concerned for Team USA right now. They always step up when it matters. And honestly, a couple days of bed rest and heavy fluids probably isn't the worst thing they can do, whether they're sick or not. Ed Reese always said he thought the best taper you could do is not swim for a week. He's just never had the gumption to try it on his athletes. So, we'll see how it plays out. But for the purposes of this podcast, I think we'll all be moving forward as if the swimmers are going to perform how we might have thought they would, sans food poisoning or illness. And on that note, let's dive right in. Not the first event of the meet, but the first event on our entry lists, the men's 50 freestyle, where Olympic champion Cam McAvoy and Olympic medalist Ben Proud are tied for the top seed at 21-25. Obviously, a lot of speed and really quite a bit of depth in this event. We have well over 30 athletes, I believe, who are entered under the 22-second barrier, with a significant handful, about 8, who are under that 21-6 barrier. David, I'll throw this one to you first. Who do you like in the 50 free? What are you excited to see in this race?
Yeah, there is a pretty clear, in a 50, 1100 is quite a bit, which is that lead that Cam McAvoy and Ben Proud have over Jack Alexi and 2125 to 2136 on the site sheet right now. And those two definitely, they've been doing some work in this event. Ben Proud, I feel like at this point, has been going pretty quick times here and there forever. It's like 2018 was when he was really kind of scaring some super fast swims. And obviously over the past couple of years, Cam McAvoy has just been laser focused on this 50 freestyle. And I'm feeling really good about Cam McAvoy because we've seen it, I think, a couple times in this preparation to talk about. One was during a meet from his opening speed and whatever metrics he's tracking for his very science-based training, with just his opening speed and being way faster than it's been before. And then recently he also went, a 25. That was also faster than he's been before. And that, if he has a weakness relative to the field, is probably his opening speed, just because a guy like Ben Proud, or when he had Dressel with him in Paris, those guys who are known for that first 15 meters. He's obviously great over the first 15 meters because you need to be great at pretty much everything in a 50 to be as competitive as he is. But if there's an obvious point for improvement for him, it's probably that. And it seems like, with as much as he breaks down his training into those specific components, seems like that opening speed has really been his focus. And just kind of seeing that hyper focus and improvement in that area specifically makes me feel like he's really dangerous. And I'm very optimistically hoping that we, not only see him win this, but go a stupid fast time. I just got a feeling that he's going to do something absolutely ridiculous.
It kind of gives the vibe of, at this point, Cam McAvoy, he's won a world title, he's won an Olympic title. Like he's done everything that maybe had eluded him in the earlier stages of his career. And now it seems like he can kind of swim up maybe a little more freer and just kind of focus on the process and the details. And, maybe even breaking that world record. Brendan, any other thoughts on this men's 50 freestyle?
Yeah, I'm definitely in the hopefully the world record goes down train. It's been, standing since 2009. It's on the list of kind of those infamous 50 free, 200 free, 800 free, 200 back on the men's side of those, final 4 superseded world records. So we're always rooting for that era of swimming to finally be behind us. But, I'm personally going to be rooting for Santo just to make the final. What a great story. I think it would be fun for everyone if he somehow found his way in the final. Next to him is Kyle Chalmers. They're down pretty far on the psych sheet at 2168, but they're guys that are obviously super dangerous, super fast, that can absolutely find their way into the final. I like Cam McAvoy to win. I hope Alexi kind of repeats his surprise silver from 2 years ago. People kind of forget about that. That was a great swim he had. So hopefully he can find the same success. And it's the 50. It's a crapshoot, but I do like Cam McAvoy.
Yeah, if you've got guesses, if you've got predictions, let us know in the comments. I've got them pulled up right here on screen. We got someone saying 21-5 to make the final, which that would be quick. Certainly on the psych sheet, we've got about 8 guys who are 21-5 or better, but I don't know
exactly, actually.
I don't know if I see that speed quite translating in a semis, but crazier things have happened. But I got to go agree with Hamza B. I don't see anyone approaching McAvoy. And honestly, this is an event I'm not as excited for compared to a lot of others, just because it seems a little more predictable. I love the Santo Condorelli storyline. Excited to see him perform on a world stage. But the next event is one that I think many are excited for. Certainly I'm excited for the men's 100 freestyle, where we've got another classic Panjanla David Popovich all out brawl. We've got 3 guys on the psych sheet at 46. This event has just gotten ridiculous. And another, I don't know what, 15 guys who are under the 48-second barrier.
It's 15. Yeah, exactly.
Sheesh. Yeah. So a lot of speed, a lot of possibilities for who could end up in that final, and then a lot of potential jostling for medals on that podium as well. Brendan, what do you see in your crystal ball for that 100 free podium?
I think this is definitely in contention on a short list to be the race of the meet on the men's side. Last year in Paris, after all the debacle with the slow pool allegations, Panjanla, sorry if I said that wrong, stepped up and just absolutely shattered David Popovich's world record in a pretty surprising result. I don't think many people saw Pan winning gold, let alone absolutely destroying a world record. And he's not slowed down since then, even ranging up to, I remember he broke that 800 short course meter World Cup record back in the fall. So he has just been on a tear. He's really good at the 200. He's really good at short course. I think he's the runaway favorite to take this 100 free again, but Popovich is, Chlorine Daddy. He's going to be in this race as well. I think he's going to be right there, probably at Pan's hip. But if there's anyone that could challenge the defending Olympic champion, I think it's the young Romanian. I really hope Alexei gets on the podium. That 46.9 at Nationals was another great swim for him. Many swim fans remember last summer. Unfortunately, he got slower as the summer went on in his results in the individual 100 free. Hopefully he's learned from that. He looked pretty good so far. And I don't know. I think Pan, he could take down his world record again.
Obviously, like he's looked great, and it's not outlandish to think he would go a best time, but just that record getting lower is kind of mind-numbing at this point. David, what do you think about this 100?
It's crazy that record getting even 100th faster is now a 46.3, which sounds fake. And seeing 346s on that psych sheet is also ridiculous. Obviously, you also have Guy Carib in 4th on there with a 47.10, which was a pretty shocking swim when that one came out. And then right behind him, Chalmers is currently sitting at a 47.27, but he's, of course, been 47.0 a couple of times and is definitely always a factor in this race. When it comes to the race for gold, the thing, I've said this on a couple different other breakdowns before, and this is probably the last time you hear me say it in this speculative fashion, because we're going to get more evidence for how Pan's performing going forward and how the dynamic of this race is kind of shifting. But it feels like opening speed is basically a prerequisite to be a factor for gold in this race, because the question with, after we first saw Pan, drop some 46s, break that world record in Doha, the question with him and what's been Popovich before is, can they do it in a final? Because they're kind of smaller compared to the other bigger sprinters. And Pan kind of cracked the code on that in Paris because he was out so much faster than everyone else, ahead of the wave, no one able to bog him down and chase him down. And then they're all getting slowed down by each other's wake. And then we've seen after that, our notorious back halfers like David Popovich, like Kyle Chalmers have been, they're both entered in the 50 free at this meet and have both broken 22 seconds, I think, for some of the first times, but they've both been going PBs in that 50 free, which to me indicates they're working on that opening speed. And I could see it being definitely a much closer race than Paris was, because that was a 1 second blowout. if other swimmers kind of realize that they can't let him reach escape velocity over that first 50. They can't let him get out of the body length because he has a distance background. You know, he started as a 1500 swimmer and then transitioned all the way down to sprint, so he can go out crazy fast and then close crazy fast. And that is going to be staying with him and or getting a lead, but he goes out so fast. I don't know that you need someone like Dressel to be able to do that, is going to be the factor. But I think with the world record that fast, he still sits in that favorite position until someone else can take him down, I think.
Yeah, it's hard for me to see a podium with different swimmers than the Olympic podium, which was Pan, Kyle Chalmers, and David Popovich at this point, just because David and Pan have looked so good this year. Kyle has definitely looked on form, and he brings it in every major international final. I think Jack Alexi is someone who could certainly disrupt if anyone does, but at this point, those three just look so good and have had such good seasons. And especially, as you said, David, all three of those swimmers have been working on their outspeed, especially David and Kyle, after seeing what Pan did in Paris. They're both have put a little more emphasis on the 50 this season. And I think that is specifically for trying to get out in that 100. And then, all three of those swimmers can close like nobody's business. So it's going to be hard in my eyes to crack that podium from those three swimmers. But again, one of the best races, I think, in that we'll see in Singapore on the men's side. And then another great race, the men's 200 freestyle with David Popovich and Luke Hobson both coming in at 143s, and both having been 143 mid to high this season. And then we've got, what is it? 4 144s behind them. I mean, this event has just grown so much in the last few years. And we've just seen it take a huge step. People finally getting in the ballpark of that stupid world record of 142.00. I don't mean stupid. Like, I just mean stupid. Like, it's so fast. It's so out there. I don't think Paul Biederman did anything wrong, unlike some others. But David, can you kick us off for this 200 freestyle? Who do you like here?
Yeah, I'm super looking forward. Obviously, at the top of the psych sheet with that duel between David Popovich and Luke Hobson, that is going to be if they're both on form, is going to be an incredible race. This 200 free is not one you worry about Popovich as much getting bounced around in the waves, because he's a bit more time to try and, save energy, make a move. And Hobson likes to take this race out. He has, in most of his, I think, I remember when I was looking at this after his 143 swim, basically every major 200 free he swam, other than his Olympic bronze medal winning swim, he goes out and then gets a little bit slower, a little bit slower, a little bit slower, just takes it out, which is a gutsy way to swim it, because it's going to hurt. You already kind of know that by default for any 200 distance swim, but especially when you're leaning into that opening speed. But that's how you eventually lean into a fast time there. And I think that mixed with Popovich's ability to have some good opening speeds, but he's also been, he's gone out sub 50 when he first won this world title with the 143 in 2022. I think him and Tom Dean were like both sub 50 or something stupid. So that is going to be a really exciting duel. And then a big kind of question mark is, just talked about him in the 100 free, but Pan, one,
yeah,
is he going to finally try in the prelims of the 200 freestyle? Because in both Doha and Paris, he was like 149s or 150s, basically sacrificing the 200 free.
Is.
This is my assumption.
Why not just scratch it?
So I'm good.
That's what I always ask too, because obviously it's like, okay, you're focusing on the 100. That's your money event. That's where you're gonna, because we wouldn't talk about him nearly as much or in the same esteem if he went a 46, 7. Obviously, still world record, still insane, but 46.40 is crazy. Wanted to go all in. Fully get that. My assumption for not scratching is just another swim in competition pool, kind of getting more chance to feel it out, or just like stay in your pre-meet routine and just get another swim in. That's my best guess. But if he does actually go for it after he's proved he's capable of last summer in the 100 free, decides to head her back up to the 200, split 143 on Reese before in Doha, and given his skill set, seems like he could be dangerous. For him, the biggest factor is whether or not he's finally going to give it a really solid effort. And then we also have some mainstays like Matt Richards and James Guy for the Brits, and then Gabriel Jett had an incredible swim at U.S. Nationals that he currently sits as the 4th seed with a 144.7, and Wang Sun Wu with a 144.9 is another one of our sub 145 swimmers. And I think if those two, Popovich and Hobson, are kind of sitting in our 1-2 spots as soft locks there, that race for bronze or someone to try and upset them is going to be nuts.
So in the 200 free final, Brendan, what 50 do you think is the most important tactically for these swimmers to, make a move either for gold or bronze or to try to crack that podium?
Third, always and forever. Short course, long course, doesn't matter what stroke. It's always that third 50. You're either fading or you're gaining. It's a pretty binary thing. Swimming is a pretty black and white sport. The clock doesn't lie. That's just what young swimmers have been taught for a very long time. That's what coaches preach for a very long time, and I kind of fully believe that to be true. Any other takers on any other 50s?
I'm always been third as well.
To me at this point, it seems like it's the last 50, and I feel maybe that's a cop-out answer, but just because the field is so fast, and I think, as you said, Brendan, if you're not gaining, you're fading. And I think especially long course, we've seen so much can change on the last 50 meters already. And for long course, I think you can still just kind of hang out there on that third 50, especially if the field is so tightly bunched. I'm not saying if someone goes out crazy fast, like that's not good, because then obviously they're ahead of the pack and have clean water. But to me, it's like the last 50 is really when you need to have it and know that you're going to have it. And I'm sure all these swimmers have their strategy and feel very comfortable with it. But the last 50 is like where I'll really be looking for, like, okay, who has the most in the tank? Because at this point, especially in a world championship final, it just feels like it's more about the race and not the time, right? I mean, if I'm being honest, I don't think we're going to see a world record. We might see someone get close, but I don't see a 141 happening.
Hot take.
I mean, I'm sure someone else does, but not this time, not yet. But let's move on to another exceedingly strategic race in the men's 400 free that has gotten quite a bit faster. We saw this suited world record go down earlier this year. Lucas Martins going 339.96, finally breaking the 340 barrier after Ian Thorpe went 340.0 in like 2002 or 3 or 1, somewhere around there. So it's taken almost 25 years to drop hundredths of a second, but we got there. And this is another event that has really moved up, and we've seen, I think, a lot of growth in the depth of this event over the past 5 or so years. Should be a really interesting race, but I don't know if gold is a huge question mark. David, who do you like behind Mr. Martins, or what's your hot take for gold?
I do think Martins is definitely the very solid favorite for gold here. Not only world record holder, obviously, but the fact that he, even when he has been off his best, like in the more tactical racing side of things during Paris, he won the gold there as well. So he kind of is the 1-2 punch, faster than anyone else, and a defending Olympic gold medalist. Those are some pretty tough accolades for anyone to kind of get in there. Sam Short is someone that I want to see him bounce back after a little bit lackluster Olympic performance. I know he's dealing with some some like stomach issues in the lead up to it, which most likely impacted his performances. But he's sitting now second with a 341.03, which for a second seed is crazy. And then of course it's the 2-3 right there for the Aussies with Elijah Whittington right behind him. And we have some other mainstays here. Kim Woo-min is the 2024 world champion, so technically the defending world champion as well. And this with it being such a tactical race should be really interesting. I do think that the experience and that racing ability that Martins has been showing, as well as, in addition to the world record this year, he was incredibly fast at German trials last year, where people were kind of throwing out world record watch alarm bells in the lead up to the meet. And then Rex Maurer is someone that I am incredibly excited to see where he goes after his performance at US Nationals. For him, obviously, if he continues to drop in the same amount of time would be awesome. But he's someone I'm very excited to see where he ends up a year or two from now as well, just with how much he's improved over this last season.
Mm-hmm. Brendan, anyone else excited to see? Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Martin's breaking the world record this year. How could you really bet against him? He's defending Olympic champion. A little dark horse for the podium for me, Guilherme Costa of Brazil. I believe he was top seed out of prelims last year. Unfortunately, did not make the podium. One of the more dramatic pictures, the Paris Olympics, is the picture, really the parallel of the agony of defeat and the joy of victory with Martins and Costa. So maybe he really locks it in this year and tries to challenge for that podium. And again, yeah, I'm really excited to see what Rex Maurer can do. He broke the 500 freestyle American record previously. He's at Texas now. This is his first big international team that he's on. I think he's a pretty solid bet for the final. And if maybe he has the sum of his life and finds his way on the podium. But yeah, this should be a great tactical race.
It would be great to see USA get on that podium for the first time since Tokyo. So
purgatory, infinite purgatory.
Honestly, I just want the American record to get broken. Larson Jensen has had it for long enough. If you don't know that name, no surprise, he hasn't been swimming in 15 years. Sorry, 17 years. And that American record has stood for long enough.
The streets remember Larson Jensen. He was a legend.
No kidding. Yeah, great swimmer, American icon, but let's make way for some new blood.
Like Luka Mijatovic, the youngster, we forgot him.
If Luka breaks the American record, I'm fine with that too. Which if Luka can make a final, that would be phenomenal. Obviously, he's only 16. Any experience he can get at this point is great, especially with the 400 free on the first day, as it always is at this meet or at major meets. If he can get out there, go best time, even, going a best time at a world championships for a 16-year-old, that's A-okay in my book. So moving on to double the distance, the men's 800 free, where once again, we've got the distance renaissance. This event has made leaps and bounds since it was made an Olympic event for the Tokyo Olympics. And we've just seen this one get faster and faster and faster. We've got 8th seed is around 742, but we've got like 6 or 7 guys who are under that 740 threshold, with Sven Schwartz of Germany at 738.1. Brendan, what do you think about this race? Who do you like?
Yeah, another fantastic race. Definitely, on par with the 100 freestyle in terms of maybe the race of the meet a couple years ago in 2023. Yeah. This race and the 1500 were absolutely jaw-droppingly incredible. Almost 8 minutes of just back and forth action between 3, 4, 5 different guys. And the same is true here. We have 5 or 6 guys under that 740 barrier. It's really hard to pick. I think, unfortunately, this event suffers from the world record being so stupidly fast that is a storyline that's lacking from this event. But there's no shortage of competitiveness between this top echelon of these distance swimmers. I'm always going to pull for Bobby Fink. He's won Olympic gold in this event. He's won a world title in this event. As an American, it's my duty to root for him. But I mean, Daniel Wiffen, the defending Olympic champion from last year, another name. He pulled out a great race in Paris last year. and the Germans are always dangerous. I mean, they just have something in the water. I think if you were allowed to enter as many entrants as possible per country, the Germans would have about 2 more people in the top 10 here. So we never count them out. I'm pulling for Bobby Fink, but I would not be surprised if any one of those top 5 guys were to get their hand on the wall first.
David, how close can we get to that 732 world record?
Not close at all.
Not very.
Dang it.
Maybe if the
way.
Germans can do it as a 2x4 relay, then that might be their best shot. But yeah, that obviously that world record is ridiculous. I'd say definitely the safest one on the books this year. Sven Schwartzman, someone that's incredibly exciting to see, just going ridiculously fast times at 7:38.12, new European record. I believe and I assume that cracked Daniel Whiffin's gold medal winning from the Olympics of 7:38.19, and the fact that we have a gap of 7 100ths on the psych sheet in the 800 freestyle is nutty. And then you also have Bobby Fink right there with the 7:38.75, setting things up for a really exciting race just by looking at that. Obviously, Paltrinieri pulled out of the pool events, right?
Yeah.
And then but behind him you have Sam Short, who, just like I said in the 400 free, I'm hoping that he was electric in this race with Hafnaoui in 2023. So if he returns to that kind of form, could be incredibly dangerous. And I am really interesting to see what our 4th seed, we just talked about, Lucas Mertens, is going to get up to, because he seems to be focusing in on this distance, this 400-800 split, rather than he's narrowed his scope down to this, dropping the 200 free from his lineup, which I think is probably an interesting move, probably easier to train for those two than the raw speed you need to be competitive with someone going a 143 low or 142 high. And, depending on how it works with his general schedule as well. But if that narrowed focus, that might result in him dropping some faster times as well. So he could definitely be someone who has obviously been insane factor in the 400 free, a little bit less of a factor in the 800 free, but still has the name recognition. That could be something that he could really pop off and maybe surprise some people with that, now that he's switched his event focus a little bit.
Yeah, what I love about this 800 free distance is just that we really get to see the overlap between the pure distance swimmers, like a Greg Paltrinieri or like a Florian Wellbrock, who's not even swimming it here, or like a Bobby Fink, and then those rangier freestylers like Lucas Martins, Sam Short, I guess, but he also swims the 400, but this is a real middle ground for that 800, real middle ground for distance freestyle. And so there's so many strategies that can play out. And I think this race specifically will be very exciting to see who tries to go out, who tries to really work the back half, and who tries to break that world record of 7:32. I'm optimistic it can happen. I don't think it's 3:46s is impossible, but I wouldn't bet on it either. I'm just really staying hopeful that we can see someone inch towards that one, but I do recognize it's probably the hardest one of the bunch. Moving on to our last distance event, the men's 1500 freestyle, with not a lot of entries. It is kind of funny how it has maybe 20 entries, but the top is stacked. We do not lack depth. Top seed Bobby Fink, world record holder from the U.S. Second seed Greg Palt is out after injuring his finger in open water, where he had a great showing, double silver in, I think triple silver even, in the 10K, 5K, and relay event. So he had a great world championships, but sadly we won't get to see him in the pool. And then Germany's Florian Wellbrock with the first ever open water sweep, I believe, winning gold in 10K, 5K, 3K knockout sprint, and the relay event. As Brendan mentioned earlier, Germany is just where it's at for distance swimming. This guy is on fire. We've got Sven Schwartz in there, Daniel Whiffen, Ahmed Jaoudi is someone I'm really excited to see of Tunisia. He seems like the next great Tunisian distance swimmer. And him and Ahmed Hafnaoui, if he gets back to the international stage, could be a real Tunisian tandem.
Nice.
But David, I'll throw this one to you first. Who do you like in this mile?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Bobby Fink with that world record sitting at the top with a decent lead with, relative to the stacked field on the psych sheet is he I think he's my pick for gold still, just because obviously he's gonna probably need a race, be strategic with it. If he goes up fast again like he did in Paris, that might be a good way to do it. Kind of take a page out of Ledecky's book after they've been training together, and lead from the front, and then know that if he needs to, he's got that ace in the hole with the closing speed. His closest challenger in the past has been Paltrinieri, and then Florian Wellbrock is obviously incredible in open water that he just did, but then you got to question how is that maybe going to impact his pool performance, because to sweep that many open water events, you need to do a lot of distance racing there, and some pretty hard racing too. And that, how much it may or may not impact your preparation for the pool, as well as the fact that we've done for one of those races, he did have to have some medical attention. Hopefully that was nothing, but that is just something to consider. I would generally, for me, the biggest consideration for him is just the overall toll that racing is going to maybe take on him. And then all the other names that you were listing there as potentials to make some noise, and also people we're talking about in the 800 freestyle. I think that this one is, I'm hoping that we see definitely some people pressure Fink, who I think is going to either be right there with the pack lurking to turn it on at the end, or I would love to see him lead from the front again and just kind of do his best to keep the field at his feet and then blast off at the end.
Yeah, I think again, this race maybe certainly not as exciting as the 800 to me, and maybe a little more predictable, and that's why. But that is our freestyle events. Let's move on to backstroke. Brendan, 50 backstroke, a lot of speed in this field. Who do you see coming out on top?
Well, the Russians are back after being absent since Tokyo, where the Russian backstroke tandem of Evgeny Rylov and Klement Kolesnikov kind of upended the U.S. dominance of backstroke. They're back starting here in the 50, where the top two seeds with Kolesnikov and Pavel Samusenko. Behind them, two Americans in Shane Casas and Quentin McCarty. Mm-hmm. I like the Russians in this one. I'll be rooting for Shane to, he's the human roller coaster. I think he could absolutely win this event, but he could also miss the final. And not either way, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think the Russians are a pretty safe pick. They've been swimming very, very well, even at their own individual national championships, not really competing internationally much due to their sanctions. But, I think it's a pretty top-heavy field. Xu Jiyu from China is someone that's been on the scene for pretty much a decade now. He's been a multi-time medalist, usually more in the 100 and the 200, but he's someone that has been absolutely a threat in this 50. But, yeah, another 50 where it's a crapshoot. I like one of the Russians to win this.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. I think they're going to be appreciative and grateful to just be back racing at this stage. David, any thoughts on that 50 backstroke for you?
I don't really think I have anything that deviates from what Brendan just broke down. That is, I mean, that gap that the Russians have of 23.90, 24.01, and then Casas thing there is 24.23. Fantastic read with the human roller coaster, because I've been having a lot of fun watching how Casas is doing. Now training under Bowman, seems to have definitely had a lot of really dialed in swims. I'd say currently in this season's highlight still that 200 IM short course. They had short course worlds, would have been a world record if not for Marchand during the World Cup, but takes down Lochtey's American record. And I think, in his backstrokes as well, we've been seeing, I'd say, increased consistency. So hopefully it's a lot, maybe a little more, maybe he's getting closer to high speed rail than roller coaster is the preferred end state. But obviously I'm going to be pulling for him because that's been a storyline that's been years in the making of how he's going to perform on the big stage. And there's definitely a lot of recognizable names from international backstroke swimming, and some more now that we have the Russians back in the field.
So staying with backstroke, David, I'll keep it on you. 100 backstroke. for once in a long time, the Americans do not have a stranglehold on this event. So, and certainly not on the podium, as they've made an appearance for the last umpteen world championships. What do you see here in this 100 back?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Thomas Chacon is going to be, world record holder, reigning Olympic champion, is going to be a threat in that, and we have a new reaffirmed threat just came out at WUGS, Peter Kotze of South Africa, with a 51.99, which if it was in the entry threshold would have just barely been our top seed by 100th of a second over Chacon's 52 flat. Juju Ayu's been a force in this event for many years now with 52.02. So, and then, gosh, I'm for the first time, I think, in depth looking at these times. So we have, if you insert that 51.99, 52.00, 52.02, 52.04, 52.08, 52.12, that's crazy.
Yeah, 6 guys within 1300ths.
Yeah, that is going to be, those semifinals are going to be must-watch swimming to see who even makes it into that top 8, and then it might just be an absolute dogfight at the end there. Mm-hmm. I think that you might want to, when it's that stacked of a field, I tend to value experience being in those fields as well. So, swimmers who are experienced with going that speed are able to manage the pressure of prelims, semis, and finals, and then performing at the end. So I think Chacon and Ju are still going to be incredibly dangerous, but it's going to be interesting to see how Kotze can factor into things.
All right, Brendan, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Will an American go under 52.85 in the final?
That's a loaded question because for the first time in my life, I'm not too sure about an American making this final. Where'd you pull 52.85 from? Modulin was 52.5, right?
Just right off the dome. Okay. It just seemed like a good line to set.
So yeah, the absence of American dominance does not mean that this event is unworthy of watching. In fact, I put it on par with the 100 and the 800 free. It's an absolute bloodbath at the top, and that's always exciting. The semifinals, as mentioned, is going to be must-watch television because there are going to be big names missing from that final. Just kind of the nature of an event like this, where it is just so ridiculously bunched up at the top. I really have no idea who's going to win this. I'm probably pulling for Chacon just because he has the world record. But as I said, in the 50, the Russians are back. They've been swimming very well, so I could see them on the podium as well. I'm just excited to watch.
Here's my prediction. And Imperity 22 just said Koch on the podium at the least. I think Koch wins. I think and obviously you guys said it. Ton of variance in this race. Anyone's race of 8 to 12 swimmers, honestly. But Hubie Koch, coming off an Olympic gold in the 200 back, had a great season at Texas. He's with Bob Bowman now. He's been 52-2 this season. He had a great Hungarian nationals right after NCAAs, but I think he's going to put 100 together this year in that final and be able to be out with the best in the world. And then I think he is one of the best, if not the best, on that second 50 coming back, or has the potential to be at least. So I see the Hungarian going out for a win. But behind him, I don't know. Take your pick. Throw a dart. And I do see one American making the final. And I do see one American going under 52.85 in that final. I don't know which one. Jack Aikens has a best time of 52.74, and Tommy Janton best time of 53.00. They're also going to have lots of relay opportunities between the medley relay and the mixed medley relay. So those guys will each probably get to swim at least 2 individual 100 backstrokes, if not more, hopefully many more. I think both those guys are going to go best times at some point in the meet in the 100 backstroke. That's what I'm heavily rooting for. So we will see. But yeah, like you guys said, I think that's going to be one of the best races of the meet. Going to the 200 backstroke, where Olympic champion, not even the top seed. That belongs to Jack Aikens, the aforementioned, by 1/100th of a second at 154.25. We have 5 guys at 154. So no one really stands out on paper. But Brendan, I'll toss this one to you first. I feel like there might be an actual standout.
I've been pretty high on Hubert Koch really ever since his breakout at the Olympics last summer. He didn't have the NCAAs he wanted last year. He immediately turned around and set the world on fire in that 200 backstroke final in Paris, one of the more impressive swims. This event is really exciting. It's really tight at the top. Unfortunately, kind of like the 800 free, they're just a ways back from that world record. So I think this event doesn't get quite the attention it deserves, because I think there are a lot of guys here, specifically Hubert, that can eventually challenge that world record come Los Angeles in a couple of years. I think it's great that Jack is the top seed. He's someone that was so close to making the Olympic team last year. He finally gets his redemption this year. He had a pretty good U.S. Nationals. His 100 back wasn't quite on his best form, but I think he's been better at the 200 throughout his career anyway. I'd love to see Jack just have some of his life and somehow take down the defending Olympic champion, but I do really think that Hubert is on watch to go absolutely nuclear at those World Championships. I would not be surprised if Hubert goes under 153.
I am right there with you, David. Anything to add?
Yeah, I think Hubert Koch is incredibly dangerous. It's obviously his bread and butter distance, and I do when you're talking about him in the 100 back, I was kind of looking, obviously he's gotten that 52.2, which is showing that some increased speed, which could be in terms of just raw time in the 200 back. If you have a little bit of extra opening speed, get away from the field a bit, and just able to go out a little bit faster, hopefully close around the same, be a bit faster. It's a big improvement. In Paris, he was 52.7 prelims, then 52.9 in the semifinals, and those were both under his personal best before the meet. And so the fact that just in that time frame he has improved his raw speed that much is obviously, to your what you're talking about, incredibly interesting for the 100 back, and I think also could be a sign of just continued lowering of his best times in that 200 backstroke. So that could be really interesting there. And I would put him, just for those reasons, what we've been seeing him do, long course, short course. I feel it would be foolish to bet against him as the favorite for another gold in this event.
Let's not forget that at NCAA's, Hubert Koch absolutely annihilated the 200 backstroke NCAA record at 134.21. Sorry for you international listeners to go into yards for just a brief second, but that is really fast for a 200 freestyle, let alone a 200 backstroke. And so he has a lot of momentum. It's why I picked him for the 100. I'm absolutely picking him to go 152 in this 200 backstroke, a time we haven't seen anyone go
since Lochte in 2012.
Okay, that's
2011.
Yeah, for well over a decade. And I think we're finally, this is one event that has really stalled for the last 10 years, 10 years plus, I'd even say. And really since Ryan Lochte and Aaron Pearsall were swimming it regularly. And so I think Hubert Koch is finally gonna get this one some momentum, which I'm really excited to see. Ariad Thompson, thank you for mentioning it. I was just about to bring him up. Apostolos Siskos of Greece has been on a huge improvement curve. He's a 20-year-old who just broke the Greek record in the 200 back at 154.6. And he has gone 2 best times in that event in the last few months. I've got my eye on him as well as the world record holder in the 100 back, Mr. Thomas Chacon, who will be swimming this. He won a best time 155.7 recently, and I think when he was training in Australia. But he will be interesting in this event as well. I think he is a medal threat, not a gold medal threat, but a medal threat. So yeah, some intrigue, but I think for gold, this one's fairly cut and dry. Moving on to breaststroke, the 50 breast, where Another athlete we haven't seen for a while, Ilya Shimanovic, enters as the top seed at 26.3. There's a lot of depth without Adam Peaty. There's not a clear favorite, but we do have the world champ from 2023, Chin Hai-yang, in there at 26.5. It's hard for me to bet against Chin Hai-yang. We don't know exactly where he's at as much as maybe some of these other swimmers, but I like Chin for the sprint breaststrokes at this point, even though he's the former world record holder, current world record holder in the 200 breast, current world record holder and the 200 breast. He definitely had an off meet in Paris. I think he's going to rebound and look really good in these breaststrokes. But interesting to see how you guys feel about this, David. 50 breast. What do you think?
I'm also feeling really good about Chin at this meet. You know, off in Paris, kind of got better as it went on. He was throwing down some really fast relay splits, but when he was doing individual events before in the meet, wasn't definitely pretty far from his best there. And I think that from what we've seen, and spoiler alert, he's going to be mentioned in the next two events as well. He's been looking really solid across the breaststroke spectrum, and just the fact that, you know, he was able to pull that triple first in history across the 50, 100, and 200 in 2023. I think that he is a massive threat. I definitely put him as the favorite, but not a lock in this event because it's really hard to lock down a 50. And I think, the most interesting kind of face we haven't seen in a bit is Ilya Shimanovic. That's going to be having a back on the in the world stage will be fun to watch, and maybe we'll get some good battles there. And then right below Chin on the psych sheet is also Nicola Martineghi. Feel like you got to mention him in the 50 since he is the Olympic champion in the 100 distance, and so clearly looking good in the sprint discipline for breaststroke.
Not even the fastest Italian, though. We got Simone Ceresuolo in there at 26.5 as well. Martineghi also entered at 26.5. So, yeah, I think that'll be a tightly bunched field. But I think at this point, Chin and Ilya kind of stand out as the favorites. Brendan, I'm going to toss the 100 over to you, which similar field with a little more depth, I think. But top entrant is Chin at 58.2. Next is Melvin Imodu of Germany at 58.8. And then we have a whole bunch of guys at 58 high or 59 low. Who do you see standing out of that field?
Yeah, unlike the 50 where it's a 50, it's kind of always a crapshoot. I do think Chin, even if he doesn't have a great 50, he'll have a strong 100 and 200. I think that's more of his bread and butter. Has he been 57 before, or is that 58.2 his best time? I know he split 57 on a relay before. He
was in 2023.
Yeah, he had a really strong world championships, obviously, in 2023. Unfortunately, the world junior record holder, Shin Ohashi from Japan, will not be here, the 16-year-old sensation. Unfortunate. But I think Chin's the favorite for the gold. I think it's a really tight battle for that silver. Would love to see Josh Matheny or Campbell McKean get on the podium for the Americans. I think, when you're so young like Campbell McKean and you're kind of still figuring out how to swim at an elite level, you certainly can drop a lot of time and find your way on that podium. Or things might not go so well. Hopefully, Matheny has the experience under the belt to safely get into that final and hopefully on the podium. But I think it's pretty safe for Chin. Martineghi, the defending Olympic champion, is also, he could pull out another shock like he did last year. I don't know. It's going to be a good one.
So there's 6/10 between first seed and second seed. Then the next 13, 14 swimmers are separated by 5/10 of a second.
Crazy.
So, yeah, I think I'm with you there. That
similar to the 100 back, it's going to be another semifinal must watch.
No kidding. Yeah, there's a lot of variance could happen there. A lot of shake-ups. Would be awesome to see Campbell McKean again just make the final. 18 years old, first world championships. Missed his frickin' high school graduation to swim at U.S. Nationals. Come on, just give him a final. We got a couple of people saying Chin Hai-yang with the breaststroke sweep. I don't think it's impossible, especially with kind of the less strong fields in really all three of these events. But it's a hard feat. it's a hard feat to pull off. We're going to have to see what kind of shape he's in. But let's round out this breaststroke, tuner breaststroke. No Leon Marchand, womp womp. And no Zach Stubblety Cook, womp womp.
Wah, wah.
The top two entries, not which yields Japan's Ippei Watanabe at 206.9, the top seed. But again, Chin Haiyang, the world record holder in this event. David, do you think Chin stands above the rest in that 200?
Yeah, I think that I do think that a breaststroke sweep is on the table, and I think his odds of winning just get a little bit lower as the distance decreases. So I think he's pretty solid in the, because before we learned about Marchand, Stubblety Cook, it was okay. It's going to be like those three were pretty locked into medals, and then it was just what order were they going to shake out in, and then you lose Marchand, and then Stubblety Cook out of the entire meet. Watanabe could be a threat, and then even below that, we don't know what kind of shape Yamamoto Fukasawa is going to be in, because he's going to be racing with a bolt in his hand because he broke like below his thumb. Apparently, though, like you can't knock the guy's confidence, because he's like, no, I've just been on an exercise bike after that, and my legs are actually stronger now. So maybe he'll go a PB. Who knows? But
especially for breaststroke, world record like seems okay.
Yeah, it's better than like a leg injury. Those are like, like breaststrokers in their knees are just like, oh no, what's going to happen to you now? But Chin, world record holder as well. And the third fastest in the world this year. So he's definitely been in a, he's decently positioned with what he's done this year in his world rankings, which is a good sign for where he's going to be, especially because he doesn't really need to go particularly fast at Chinese nationals compared to, in this event in particular, the Japanese swimmers, who really need to race for those top two spots, to the point where our fastest swimmer in the world this year, Shin Ohashi, is not present because he placed fourth at that meet, like Brendan mentioned in the 100 breaststroke. But I think it's Chin is pretty clear favorite for gold, and I think it's definitely his best shot for gold, but all three are on the table. And then it'll be interesting, especially with some big names either out or maybe some question marks next to him. It could be a good opportunity to see some either mainstays that have been off of podiums, or for some fresh faces to make an appearance, which is always an interesting storyline when it happens in an event.
It does seem like they're bunched up behind Chin. On paper, at least. I could absolutely see Asia sweeping the podium with those two Japanese swimmers, and even potentially China's Dong Zihao getting in for a medal as well. But a lot of possibilities. But like you guys said, the world record holder, until someone dethrones him, he looks pretty strong at this point. Moving on to butterfly. Man, the 50 fly is going to be good. Brendan, you want to preview this very, very speedy event for us?
Yeah, off the bat, we have 8 or 9 guys under the 23 second barrier. A little bit off the world record. Noe Ponte, the top seed at 22.6. I believe the world record is 22.2, 22.1.
Yeah, 22.2.
Yeah, so a bit of ways off the world record, but still going to be an incredible race. Noe Ponte had an incredible fall, just absolutely tearing up the World Cups and the Short Course World Championships. Definitely known more as a 50 guy as opposed to 100. He was the Olympic bronze medalist in the 100 fly in 2021. But behind him, I mean, Ilya, the only guy in the world that can medal in the 50 fly and then also win medals in the 10K open water. Still one of the rangiest swimmers on the planet. So impressive. That never ceases to amaze me. And then behind him, I mean, it's just so tight. Haridi Sama of Egypt, someone that also did well at the World Cup stops in the fall. Nils Korstanja, the NC State product from the Netherlands, another guy that's been on the block for a while. I really don't know who I like to win this. It's really close between Noe and Ilya. Grousset from France, another strong, maybe more 100 focused guy. But it's a 50. It's a crapshoot. I sound like a broken record, but it's true. These are all just so tight. It's not like we have a Gretchen Walsh in here who's just going to take a wrecking ball to the field. So I think it's tight, but I do think I like Ilya Karun in this.
Mm-hmm. David, who do you like for winning?
Yeah, I think I'm in pretty solid agreement with the two names. I feel like you said the most. Ilya Karun seems like they are obviously not on paper. It's very close we're talking about on that field, 22.6, 22.6, 22.70, and then it just kind of keeps incrementally increasing from there. But I do think, Noe Ponti, obviously, he's been pretty quick in some butterfly events last year and then still going this year. And then World Cup circuit, he was just tearing it up. Incredibly exciting to watch. And honestly, even just watching him race and like seeing him on, just having the camera on that much as he was doing his thing in short course, just makes me root for him more because I feel like I've seen him swimming so much. I'm like, man, he's so fun to watch. I want to watch him do well. So if any swimmers out there need reason to race at more meets, that it seems like it might endear you with a lot of people watching. Ilya has dropped like crazy in this event because I think it is. I mean, 22.68 at Canadian trials. That gave him his entry time, and I want to say, was that his first time breaking 23 seconds? The fastest I see was from Fort Lauderdale, 23.09.
Then I think it was, because I'm pretty sure that was a best time in Fort
Lauderdale.
That
was. I just saw that was a best time. So I mean, that trajectory, depending on how much he needed to go in at Canadian trials, which shouldn't have been too much, it could be an interesting sign. And he's definitely been improving his speed because he's also been making some big strides in that 100 fly, and we know that he can show up on the big stage as he was dual bronze medalist in Paris, and so that the bright lights aren't going to scare him.
One other name I'm excited to see in this, it was a name we've brought up several times, Thomas Chacon, the backstroke world record holder in the 100, and I think a threat in the 200 to medal. Also, 23 entered at a 23.00, world champion in this event from 2023. He has a best time of 22.68, which he set in Fukuoka to win this event. That was an Italian record. So I think, his best puts him right up there with Ilya and Noe. I don't necessarily think he will be at his best at this meet, but he certainly has the potential to be right up there for the medals. So again, it's a 50. Anything can happen. It's going to be an exciting race. Let's move on to the 100, where Canada looks better than I think any other country with their sizzling 1-2 tandem of Ilya Karun and Josh Liendo, who have both posted, I think, 50.3s this season. And I want to say that's close to the top, although I know Noe Ponti has already been 50.1. But David, I'll toss this one to you first. In this loaded 100 fly field, a lot of similar names. Who stands out to you?
Yeah, this field is absolutely ridiculous. We have 12 swimmers under 51 seconds. And then to round out the top 16, you only go up to a 51.09. That is nutty. So that is going to be incredibly interesting to see. And, I was just talking about Ilya Karun, who the fact that he he's gone, that 50.37 was a personal best, along with his drops in the 50 fly. Seems like he's definitely leaning into his speed and his just butterfly ability in general. And I think he's on a really good curve. It's a drop from his 50.45 that he went in Paris to win that bronze medal, behind Josh Liendo, who's sitting there at the top at the 49.99, and Noe Ponti has also been super dangerous, and as well as Maxime Grousset is someone really fun to watch. Shane Costas could show out in this event. Anyone in the top 16 could do something to put themselves in that final. This will be a really fun race to watch, even with our Olympic champion Christoph Mielak not racing this meet. There is no shortage of speed or depth anywhere along this event. But I definitely say I feel like Grousset could do something stupid fast. He was looking really good at French trials, and he's been looking good for the past couple of years as well. And so I want to say the race comes down to like Grousset, Liendo, and either Ponti or Ilya. But definitely those top three with 49.9, 50.1, 50.1 are a cut above the rest in that that psych sheet.
It's crazy that now top 8 at the Olympics was 51-0. If you're like 51-3, you are just irrelevant in this event, which is insane to me. I mean, that makes the semifinal, but you don't get much more. It took 51-6 to make the semi in Paris, and I don't really see that being much slower here. Maybe 1-7, maybe 1-5. I think the depth of this field is really there. So, another barn burner with a lot of names that could squeak their way into that final. And then truly this one is, if you got a lane, you got a chance, depending on how tactical you are. And again, what those last 10 meters look like for you. Let's move on to the 200 fly, where once again, no Leon Marchand, womp womp, but it's fine. We get to see him do a 200 IM without any other events. So I'm happy for that. Brendan, this 200 fly, I can't say it's an exceedingly deep field, but we do have some speed at the top. What names do you like?
I think it's Luca's time. He shattered, we talked about Hubert shattering the 200 backstroke record at NCAAs. Sorry, not sorry, international swimmers. This is relevant. Luca obliterated the 200 butterfly record in one of the more impressive 200 flies I've really ever seen. Just took it out so fast and was really able to hold on very well. He didn't fade very hard on that last 50. He had a great Pro Series run in the spring. He had a great nationals. Really just got the job done. He's my pick to win, but Ilya's right there. He's the defending bronze medalist. Would not be surprised if Ilya won, but I do feel good about Luca taking home a gold medal here. It's been in the works for so many years. I was blessed to be a part of the 200 fly tandem with him at the Junior World Championships in 2019, where he absolutely torched the field. That was a lot of fun to watch. It's just kind of felt like this has been a when, not an if for him. So I'm really excited to see him tear it up next week. Really hope he can get his hand on the wall first. Carson Foster as well, someone that's always had kind of a strong 200 fly pedigree, finally leaning into it. I'm really excited to see what he can do. Maybe he can crack his best time, get into that 152 range. But I really like Luca or Ilya to take this.
Someone's saying Luca is breaking MP's 200 fly American record, which is 151.5. That would be quite a swim, and I think would put him solidly at a gold medal if he does it in the final. So we will see, but it would be awesome to see Luca Orlando fulfill the prophecy. Again, we have to mention Ilya Karun, who's just been on fire this season. I feel like those are the top two. Behind them, you got a lot of guys who are going to be fighting to get on that podium, but I think those are the main two to watch here, who both of which have been 152s. So let's move to an event that Leon Marchand is keeping his entry, the 200 IM. David, we're going to see that Lochte world record go down.
I mean, it kind of depends on how you look at him dropping the event, right? Because one is not ready, can't handle the program. He's got to scale it back to what he's good at. The other is that he's ready to take a shot. And we're just going to make sure that he doesn't have as much in the way before, because he's never really gotten to do a very fresh 200 IM. He had to, in Paris, do 2 heats of the 400 IM, 3 heats of both the 200 breast and the 200 butterfly, overlapping in sessions.
17th 200.
Yeah, and then the prelim, semis, the 200 IM, whatever, and then the final, and he was just 600ths off of that world record.
Yeah,
and now it's that final, the 200 IM is gonna be his 3rd swim, unless he's on a relay beforehand. But it feels like they might keep him off if this is his goal, is to take that kind of more rested shot at the world record. I'm feeling definitely more optimistic about him being able to challenge that world record. It just kind of depends on his general shape and form. But I mean, he's done some very fast times already this year, given the context of the meets that they were done, and the fact that his season best right now is that effectively a training meet at the end of a triple. And he was ahead of the top 2 in the world. Carson Foster and Shane Costas, I believe, were both in the B final of that meet, and he was significantly faster than both of them. And he's currently sitting at 8th in the world this year, ahead of behind people who are mostly doing it at trials meets. And I think he's looking incredibly dangerous in this event. And even if his fitness isn't where it was at for Paris, I think a big part of the fitness at that level is more to handle that giant program and not die at the end of it, rather than being able to get through a 200. I think we're talking about fitness at a much different level than just trying to be effective in any individual race. So I feel like the race behind him, there are a lot of really interesting swimmers in the field. Shane Costas and Carson Foster had an awesome duel at U.S. Nationals, and they're currently, like I said, sitting at top 2 in the world. Duncan Scott has always been a factor in this. He keeps winning silvers behind either Wang Xun or Leon Marchand. Wang Xun is sitting at 3rd seed right now, champion in Tokyo, and then bronze in both Rio, which I didn't learn until recently. I always just associate him as breaking out in Tokyo. Totally forgot he was a factor in Rio, as well as Paris. He is someone who I mentioned last time. A lot of Chinese athletes might be focusing on the China National Games. Wang Xu has never been particularly impactful at a world championships, and it seems like in 2023, definitely seemed like his focus was on the Asian Games. I wouldn't be surprised if he did a similar thing this season, because he was actually faster than Marchand at those Asian Games, but then I don't know if he made the final, and definitely didn't medal.
I feel like I remember that.
So he could be a bit of a wild card, because he's obviously incredibly capable. It just depends on where his meet is focused. And he might just be a swimmer that really needs to target one meet a year, rather than someone like Chin Haiyang, who can go fast multiple times a year. He's was going really fast at World Championships and then going fast at World Cups, doing 57s at both of those meets for comparison. I think that this race behind Marchand, it's going to be, there's 2 races, right? One is between Marchand and Lochte, and then the next one is going to be the rest of the field, with the potential for someone to try and chase down Marchand, but I'm not feeling it anymore. I was maybe leaning a bit more towards Costas being able to chase him down. He seems like he's getting back to that Marchand that we saw a lot of in Paris.
So we got I'm Swaggy D saying Leon never seen a 153 and he never will. Straight to 152.9. Brendan, what do you think about this world record?
I mean, I could see Leon breaking the world record. Obviously, I mean, he was so close. I watched that swim live in person last summer. One of the great privileges of my swimming spectating career. 152.9. I don't know about that, but I've also seen Leon take a wrecking ball to many quite unthinkable barriers beforehand, specifically 3:30 in the 4 IM short course yards.
Yeah.
Long course is a little different. You don't quite have those jumps like you do in short course, but wouldn't be the craziest thing I've ever seen that guy do, honestly. So.
Do you think we'll see a world record from him?
Yeah. I mean, I really think he's kind of on my until further notice list, where, you go through the sport, you watch people like Leon, like Katie Ledecky, like Summer McIntosh, and you just sit there and you just enjoy just the greatness that they are. You watch athletes at the peak of their powers, and it's just a great privilege of being in the sport. And he's definitely in that category. I think he has 7 100s in him. That's not. He's had so much more asked of him. Specifically, that double, the 200 fly, 200 breast last summer. If he can do that, he really can kind of do anything he wants.
Hey, fair enough. I want to see it. I think the whole world wants to see that again. 2011 world record go down when Lochte went 154.00. I think a 153 200 IM is in our sights. Let's round this out with the 400 IM, where once again Mr. Marchand is the top seed by over 4 seconds, by over 4.5 seconds, where he's the world record holder. Brendan, I'll throw this one right back to you. But behind Leon, who I think is the prohibitive favorite, what names stand out to you here?
Yeah, Carson's gotten a bunch of silvers in this event behind Leon. I think that's another safe bet. He's on pretty solid form this summer, taking on a few more events than he has in the past, but I think he's been swimming really well, and I think he's another great pick for that silver. The Japanese entrant in the bronze position, Tomoyuki Matsushita, sorry if I said that wrong, he had a really great Japanese nationals. The Japanese are very strong at breaststroke, butterfly, and IM, and it's very tough to bet against them. I like him to take over the bronze position. Max Litchfield from Great Britain, he's been swimming for quite a long time. He has an Olympic medal in this event, if I don't remember correctly.
I know he's gotten fourth a lot.
Is he the? Oh, I missed that one.
But hold on, I'm looking it up. He does not.
No.
he has a world championship medal in this event, both
okay.
short course and long course. He has European medals in the 400 IM, but I think he's gotten fourth at 2 straight Olympics.
Gotcha. Well, then this is his opportunity to break into that top 3, and it really could happen. He's right there with Matsushita and Foster. So,
yeah,
yeah, I think Marchand clear number 1 there, and then Foster and Matsushita both seem like probably the most solid medal threats. Matsushita actually got one over on Foster in Paris. He got that silver medal ahead of Foster, and just in Japanese nationals, I assume it went 1/100th faster than his personal best that he went in Paris, because he was a 4:08.62 in Paris, and he's seated now at 4:08.61. So he's clearly on a similar form that earned him that medal, which means that he should be pretty threatening, as well as Foster has obviously looked incredible. Brendan, like you said, he is dealing with a bigger program than he normally does, but I would argue he's probably with the best coach to handle you through a big program. He has somewhat of a history of helping swimmers with some very ambitious programs, and that could be a really exciting battle there too. In terms of other names that might try and challenge them, those 3 feel very, very solid, as well as you mentioned Max Litchfield. We talked about him in the 400 free. Rex Maurer, if there's some more room to kind of focus in on, could also be an interesting thing, at the very least, to make a final. So if we can get 2 Americans in that final, could be exciting to watch. But it feels like our podium, with the kind of the ebb and flow that you can have in a 400 IM, you could have someone who really improved one specific leg, and it's enough for them to just blow by a couple of the favorites. We might see a surprise medalist.
I was also looking at the defending world champion in this event, actually, Lewis Clarebert of New Zealand, and someone who finaled at the Olympics last summer. D2 trained University of Indianapolis, Cedric Busing of Germany, who was able to sneak his way into that Olympic final last summer. So 2 more names kind of further down the psych sheet to watch.
Love it. With that's our individual events for 2025 World Championships in Singapore. Just a quick little wrap up. Brendan, relay you're most excited to see at this meet?
Men's 4x2. I think it's the Americans' time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the depth is going to carry both freestyle relays for USA. I think, again, in this post-Olympic year, just so many other teams are so depleted with people taking breaks, with people, not focusing on much this year. Britain is still probably going to have their same 4 guys on that 4x2, but US has really took a step forward in that relay specifically, I think. So I think they're good to go on that one. David, same question. Relay you're most excited for?
Same answer. I love the 4x2 just because I find that relay to be so dynamic, just because you can have so much swing in each individual leg, and then also just the overall the excitement of a relay. I think we've seen this relay be, especially with how many fast performers we have from different countries in this event, sometimes on different legs. I think one of my favorite relays I've seen of this 4x2 was during the Doha World Championships, which wasn't a particularly fast from the overall relay time, but the fact that you had 143s on 3 different relays. You had Pan doing it for China, you had Wang Sung-woo doing it for Korea, and then you had Carson Foster doing it for the Americans. And those are all still potential players in that field. And then I think the American depth is going to really shine through on that, especially like you mentioned, Coleman, in that post-Olympic year, depending if some people are in kind of different forms. We've already been able to cycle in new members just at US nationals. And then if people, to kind of, if there is still issues with illness or anything like that, or even just how people are performing at the meet, cycle in two of your alternates, kind of pad out if some people are maybe not having the meet that you wanted to be on that relay. But I think that the 4x2 should be super dynamic and super fun to watch, like it always is.
I forgot about that Doha World Championships 4x2. Man, what an epic race. Really excited to see what South Korea does, and specifically in this 4x2. I think, honestly, they could be the biggest challengers for the U.S. In this field after that 701.9 that they logged in Doha, which wasn't even a national record. They've been faster, and I think they have 4 guys who can really throw down solid legs. Last question. Who wins the medley relay? Men's medley relay. I think China. They're the defending Olympic champions. I'm mixed. I want to hear what you guys' thoughts, but at this point, there's a lot of question marks for Team USA. I think that every other team that is a major title contender, certainly if you're just looking at the Olympic final last year, France, I don't know who would anchor for them. It's not Flo Manadou. I know they have solid 100 freestylers, but I don't think they are improved in that one. Great Britain has good legs, but no Adam Peaty. Australia is always solid, but they just usually have one leg that's a little off. Just looking at the front two, and the U.S. a lot of youth. So I don't, if we get a 52 high and a 58 mid from a swing, like that's a win, but that's not a winning formula for that medley relay when you're staring at Pan Chan La, even though we have Jack Alexi on the anchor potentially, who's no slouch. Okay. But David, tossing this one to you, medley relay, who do you see?
Yeah, I still see China in this one, just because, if we're, looking at the Paris results we had, China versus USA, China managed to break the American streak in there, in no small part thanks to Pan Chan La splitting a 45 on the end there. And then if you compare those respective lineups, China, if anything, has gotten better, because now Chin, he wasn't on his game at the beginning of the meet. Maybe he was back to his top potential by the end of it. Is something that you could argue into oblivion, because you'll never get an objective answer on that. But in theory, they could even be a little stronger compared to Team USA is a little bit weaker on some legs, or I like the optimistic spin of a lot of youth, a lot of potential in there. But they seem to be some pretty solid favorites. There is something to be said about now, for once Team USA isn't necessarily the one with the target on their back, so that could be the little bit of push, that underdog spirit that they might need to try and pull something out. But I would think it would be an upset if they win gold.
Brendan, any pushback?
No, I mostly agree with that. I'm gonna throw one team that hasn't been mentioned yet: the Italians. I think they could throw something together that could feasibly get on the podium, if not challenge for the title. I feel like they have 4 strong legs. Federico Berdiso, specifically their butterflyer, has had a little bit of a renaissance this year after his 200 fly bronze in Tokyo. Went off the map for a few years, but he seems to be doing well heading into these world championships. Always going to be playing for the Americans. The youth, is a little bit of a concern, but just go out there, do your best. Penn is looming large. Hopefully we have enough of a cushion over China. I know they have a little bit of a question on their butterfly leg, Chen Junair. He's been hit or miss. He's been as fast as 50 point, I believe, but he's also had a few not so great relay splits for the Chinese team. So we'll see what happens. Nothing's written.
It will be really interesting to see how the U.S. handles that. I think some people have called for Shane on the backstroke leg. Again, we'll get to see how the backstrokers are performing throughout. So Tommy Janton and Jack Aikens will certainly get their shots at the 100 backstroke throughout the meet, and then we'll see what happens. But I think the back and breaststroke leg is a big question. But I think if we can hang, I like Jack Alexi on the anchor. It's like we had Hunter Armstrong in Paris, which was great for the time, but I think there's just a little more confidence in knowing like, okay, Jack's been in this position a lot before. And even if he's not going to match Pan, if we have a slight lead, maybe he can race him, you know?
One
So,
thing to
go
consider
ahead.
specifically on relays, I mean, Jack is huge. Jack is absolutely enormous. And not to say that Pan is incapable of overcoming a wash or a wake. He's the 100 freestyle world record holder. I'm not absolutely going to say that. But if you're going to get into the physical aspect of it, you want someone that is going to churn the water up, hopefully on the way to a gold medal.
Yeah. And Brendan, I'm glad you brought Italy up just because they are the world champions from 2022 in this event, missed the Olympic final by 0.2 last year. So they were 9th out of prelims. They just got touched out by Germany. So I do expect them to be back in the final and honestly be back in the mix to podium in this one as well. That's our preview for the 2025 World Championships in Singapore for the men's side. Thanks for tuning in. And we will see you day one on Sunday, 7 a.m. Eastern is when finals start. The prelims are actually I believe at 10 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. So world champs are upon us. Happy Singapore, happy World Championships, and stay tuned to Swim Swam. We will see you there.